my name is Wendy Broersen, and I run Super People and Super Women Academy. Most people know me from Super Women Academy. I help big companies, most international companies, and mostly in Europe, to attract and retain and develop a diverse workforce. And I do that for companies like ABN AMRO, but also for Qualcomm, Diageo, Deutsche Bahn. We're in the midst of starting up with Swarovski. So all kinds of brands, all kinds of branches, and they have one thing in common. They would like to have an inclusive organizational culture. And we got a lot of questions about that. So I'm doing a lot of webinars. Recently, I've been doing them about how to obtain an inclusive culture. So I want to go through the couple of steps that you have to take. But first, I would like to know who's in the room, because then I can amend my presentation towards what you guys are and girls are longing to hear, and with best practices and examples. I would like to incorporate what you are expecting to hear more about. So Fred, can you unmute yourself and give a quick introduction of who you are and why you joined up for this webinar?
Okay, since I'm the only male currently.
Well, you're the first one in my screen, so that's why.
Okay. Oh, look,
you're the first one in. That's probably why.
Okay, my name is Frida. I'm normally I was working in the logistics, but due to COVID, yeah, I lost my job. So I now intending to do in a career switch, something which my passion is lying, and that's in regard to mindset speaking, in regards to motivate people to change their mindset. Since I have a lot of personal stories to tell, and I know that I can bring this to people, and how to survive, to thrive, get out of the problem. I wanted to make this as a business for me. I'm already participating also in Toastmasters as a speaker. I'm also ambassador for District 59 for a mentor-mentee program that's for Benelux, France, and Monaco. So I'm working already within Toastmasters, but I now want to bring this also outside Toastmasters and make a difference.
Okay. And as you noticed, you're not the only man in the room anymore.
No.
Thank you for joining Rumer and Arthur. Jacobine, would you mind? Oh, just one quick question. I made my presentation in English and you're recording it, Claudia. Are you going to distribute this to English-speaking people? Because for now, I'm only seeing Dutch people. So, okay, we'll stay in English then. Okay, Jacobine, could you tell me quickly who you are, what you do, and why you joined?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me. Okay. Right. So Jacobine van der Kun, hello from Brussels. I'm working in HR. I'm the Global VP for Talent Management in the life science industry. Same like Fred, I'm about to lose my job. So same position here, looking for a new opportunity. And the reason why I joined is actually because Claudia has asked me a few times more, why don't you join one of our sessions? Well, if it's live in Holland, I can't, because I'm, travel time and everything, I'm simply not capable. So this was an opportunity to join in via Zoom. And I'm an absolute ambassador of inclusion and diversity. I think this is one of the key priorities that we need to have. So curious to hear what you, Wendy, are going to share with us.
Cool, thanks. Irma?
Hello, this is Irma from Amsterdam. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm a lawyer in employment law, so I handle cases about dismissal, employment conditions, reorganizations, etc. And I usually act for employers, about 80%, and a lesser extent also for employees. And I like to combine my legal work with strategic HR processes. I'm now working for an elderly organization with nursing homes with a change process. And I enjoy combining my lawyer work with the HR work. Well, Claudia invited me for several times for this network. So for me, it's new. I'm very curious what you are going to tell us, Wendy. Well, I see different organizations, and I think the inclusiviteit is a very important issue. And it's not about women, men, it's about people functioning in their best way, I think.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Angelique? You have to unmute yourself first.
Yeah, that happens quite often. Hi, this is Angelique from Tiel. I always call it the center of the Netherlands. It depends a little bit where you are in the Netherlands, if you agree with me. I have a background in HR for 30 years. That's how I met Claudia as well. And I recently, and very recently, because I announced it last Friday, it was my birthday, and at the same time I announced that I started a new company called OneonOne Inc. And I guess the name in itself already says what I'm after. I would like to work with managers, companies who are also like me, would like to go for an inclusive workplace where people could feel at home, whatever they are, whatever background they have. And like Claudia said, whatever color, whatever opinion. But how do you do that? How do you thrive such a culture? That's what I would like to help managers with.
Cool. We have a lot in common then, Angelique. Frida, would you mind?
Hello, my name is Frida de Hartog, and I'm an international intercessor and speaker, and I encourage and support people in the business, but also in the government, what we have intercessor groups. And well, at the last year, we did a lot for intercession around the globe, you know, with the whole situation, what happened. So, but also for business people, yes, to support them and to encourage and to coach. Yes.
And what is your role in that?
Well, it is when people in business or in government have a special request for some things that is sometimes difficult. Let me say, I can speak because it's a lot of confidential, but you have people who have particular cases in business or everything. And what I do is I do in the courts of heaven, and I'm a prayer, I have prayer ministry to support in prayer. Yes.
Okay.
And to encourage. Yes. In the United States, it's whole normal, but here in Europe, it really have to have a breakthrough in this.
Well, maybe that's your part in this world.
Yes, yes, it is.
Marguerite, would you mind?
Yeah, thanks Claudia and thanks Wendy for the invite. I was invited by Claudia by surprise yesterday afternoon. So I have to be honest, I made some time available, but I have no clue what I've entered. So I'm going to be very fair and straight. I am chairman of the Aon Executive Holdings Board. So I have a pretty, in addition, I'm also non-exec at, amongst others, now to the Tiel. And I'm also the chair of the female Dutch diversity initiative called Topvrouwen.nl. And that's the reason why I'm here. And Claudia was so clever in your car. I think you are, Claudia, to attract me. So, you know, I'm going to be surprised by Wendy, what she has to tell. So I look forward to what you have to say, Wendy. Thanks for inviting me.
Welcome.
Yeah. Roemer, would you mind?
Oh, not at all. Name is Roemer, like rumor has it. I design and deliver leadership development programs for corporate clients. My employer is actually a business school, and through the business school, I'm on faculty there. I work with our in-company leadership development division, basically.
And what school is it?
It's TIAS. It's basically the business school associated with Tilburg University.
I know the name. Arthur, you're up.
My name is Arthur Vedder. I'm invited by Claudia, and I'm very curious what building an actionable diversity strategy, what it is. I have several businesses and all kind of investments, and I'm looking forward to new ideas and possibilities for the coming years.
Okay, well, thanks. It's always nice to have people in here who are interested in the topic and don't know as much about it as they would like to. So you're very, very welcome. And then last but not least, no, sorry, Claudia. Does everybody know Claudia and what she does? There is only, so you're up, Claudia. There's
Yes.
some people shaking their heads, so you kind of have to now.
It's a big secret. No, it isn't. No, I'm in the human resources business for years, and I used to be a corporate consultant for compensation benefits and human resources advice. And yes, mainly because I'm from Germany, I help a lot of companies from Germany who have little a branch in the Netherlands with their human resource questions and completely deliver services for them as well. So I'm working on the executive level, on the operational level, and on the tactic level. And for all these levels, I know a really big, valuable network with beautiful people I can ask and to act in the cases. And since October 2019, I am the chair of OneonOne Amsterdam, which is the business club in that I invited you today. And the OneonOne Business Club is an international organization. We have an online community for $36 a year membership. Everyone can connect online in a targeted way. And we have online meetings like this one, which is for free for everyone, even if you're not a member. But we also have meetings on international level with I'm in London, Paris, and other countries. And then you can have access when you're part of the club. And we also have on location meetings.
Masterminds, Claudia.
And of course, the masterminds. Every Monday mastermind at 4:30 we have, and that's really effective for myself as well, because then we meet each other and we split up in groups. And there I can address my questions. If there's something happens at one of my businesses, I can ask the mastermind around me, what would you do? Do you know a person who can help me? And then sometimes people really say, Claudia, don't think only that way. Think it in a wider way. Okay. And I'm very grateful about that one. You're right. I never should forget to talk about the masterminds.
No, I like the masterminds. It's one of the reasons why I joined.
Yes. Yes.
So actively connecting you with a person that might help you or could be a potential client for you, or well, any kind of help. And you can there's always one or two entrepreneurs in the room that can help you with all kinds of questions. So I'm going to share my screen. And so in case you're wondering, you should be in the in this class, but some people didn't even know what they signed up for. But we're going to talk about an actionable diversity strategy. And what do you need a diversity strategy for? You need it to build an inclusive company or organizational culture. And so we're going to walk through the steps how to be able to do that. And the first one is, and it sounds contradictory, but it is true, and I've heard it, and I've watched it and witnessed it at a lot of companies. In order to become more inclusive, you need to be exclusive first. It sounds a bit weird because inclusive means that everybody's included, and I'm telling you that you need to be exclusive first. And what do I mean with that? Is that it means that within your organization, you group certain minorities together. I'll give you some examples on how to be exclusive. You can build special networks, and those networks have special events for just, like, say, people from the LGBT community, or people that are young parents or young fathers. There are some companies that have exclusively events for young fathers to make sure that the work-life balance is there. You can have special development programs for minorities. We're familiar with a lot of gender diversity on this kind, but there's also in America a lot of examples on African Americans that have that can enter special development programs that are just for African Americans. Office management, which means there are certain facilities that are only used, they can only be used by certain minorities. You can think about people that have disabilities, but also you can have special bathrooms for women that are still nurturing and stuff like that. Exclusive in targeted recruitment. Especially recruitment to get more minorities in, or discrimination even. And there's been a recent example last year on the University of Eindhoven, who decided to not hire any male professors for at least the first 6 months in order to get their balance, to get it straight. And you can even use quota to get more balance in your organization. Why do you need that? Is a question that I get a lot. Is first of all, it gives visibility of the fact that there are people that are not, that are a minority within the company. If you, for instance, work at customer service, and you have rarely contact with another department where there's mainly men working, and if you don't share any amenities, you might not even be aware that there are minorities working at your company. There are certain areas that traditionally don't have a lot of women working there, or traditionally have not a lot of men working there. And if they don't mix and meet, they don't know that there are minorities there. Another reason is that I'm going to this one, and it's also an eye-opener for a lot of people. In order to become more inclusive, the sum of minorities needs to be at least 30%. I'm not saying that you can't be inclusive if you don't have that 30%. And I'm not saying that it needs to be at least 30% women, but you need to have a certain amount of people in your company fitting within that minority group in order for them to be visible. And also a lot of people don't feel the need to be more inclusive if there's only 1 or 2 in the, like, say, 1,000 people. That's why it's so important that they're visible, and that you need to make sure that you get more people in. The trick is, of course, to make them stay. If they're the only one, it's very difficult to stay, for most people anyway. You need to be aware of something else, and that's that you cannot take the bias out of everyone's mind. You can make sure that the bias doesn't become unconscious anymore, that you're conscious that you have biases, but you can't take them out. Biases are for instance, that women are not as good as in math as men. That could be a bias that you have. That's obviously not true, but because the last two Dutch mathematicians, top mathematicians were women actually, but it could be a bias that is comes out of the culture that you're brought up in. A lot of teachers at elementary schools still think that boys are better in math than women, girls. You see it in the media, you see it in, I was appalled 1.5 years ago when I read the economy exam of my boy. He did Athenaeum and he did state exam. There were 5 characters in his economic exam, or 6 I think, and 4 of them were men and 2 of them were women. And the one of the women was on welfare and the other woman was working part-time. And the men were successful entrepreneurs, they were CEO of companies. And so this whole structure of media, of school books, of exams can build a bias in somebody's mind. You can't take that out, but you can make sure that they're aware that they have the bias and they will not act upon that bias. That's the job of the company, to make sure that if you want to build an inclusive culture. So what can you do when you know that you can't take that bias out of the people's minds? What can you do to build an inclusive culture? And these are things that are easy to address because they're part of the processes within a company. And most companies, even startups, are built on male structures. It's I was shocked when I read this the first time, and I read about the research, and what it basically means is that when a product is developed, or when a medication, there has been a lot of media attention about that. If they do research, or if they do develop or design a product, they will take the male physique as at the basis of that structure. That also results, for instance, that there amongst casualties and injuries involving car accidents, the percentage of women that get hurt or even die is higher than men. And that's not because they invoke more accidents. It's because the airbags are situated in a position that is not a good start of reference for women. Women are on average a bit smaller than men. So the airbag comes up when there's an accident, and it's not the optimal position for most women. So they get more injuries that way. And it is like it is. But if you are aware of this, you can become more inclusive in, for instance, your recruitment process. You can take out names, you can take out sex, you can take out the pictures, and that will also remove some of the bias in the recruitment process. You can take out the same things out of the promotion process, and also you can put more emphasis on characteristics and even describe them in a non-biased way, in an inclusive way. The same with the development process. You can make sure that trainers, whether they're male or female, will teach a male point of view and a female point of view. For instance, and that's a really nice example, men and women negotiate in different ways. One of my biggest eye-openers ever when I started with this was that if a guy says no to a proposition, you just have to propose something slightly different to the same guy again, and then it could turn into a yes. You can even try that for 2 to 3 times. When a woman says no to a proposition, it's not going to change. It's just they think in different ways. And so if a guy does a proposal to a woman, he will think, why is she saying no? And then he comes with another proposal, and the woman is thinking, why do you do that? I already said no. And the other way around, if you negotiate with a guy, you should just try again and again and again. And that actually got me a lot more revenue and a lot more clients once I found that out. Evaluation processes, the same thing. And succession, that's a big thing. Usually succession, a huge part of succession takes place on networking, and networking is done in different ways by women and men. But also, if you look at the network of men, there's usually 10 to 20% women in there. If you look at the network of women, there's usually the same, but then only 10 to 20% men in there. So if you ask a man to come up with a suitable woman for a particular position, he has very few women to choose from. So if you base your succession process on that networking part, you're basically setting yourself up to fail to get more women into a higher position in that company. So these processes need to be reviewed and make sure that they're more inclusive. And that's a great way to make sure that the whole process is contributing to a more balanced organization. No questions so far? I mean, take yourself off mute if you have a question or if you want to know more. Nobody? Okay, then I'll move on. How am I in time? Oh, good. So what are these requirements for action? Because what I've seen a lot, I even invented a game about that, is that a lot of companies and organizations talk about inclusion, they talk about diversity, but if you ask them what they are doing, it stays silent, or you don't hear that much. So I dived into research on what diversity and inclusion actions are really successful, and what actions are actions that a lot of people join or participate in. So I've made a little list of that as well. The first one sounds a bit weird, but it needs to be short. So if you want to take action to change something, the shorter the better. And so a lot of diversity and inclusion strategies focus on the long term because they know it's going to take a long time to change something. But the best way to go about this is when you cut it into pieces and then make it really short. Like within 6 months, we want to reach this, or within a year, that would be the maximum, I would say. With sponsoring, the same thing. If you want to set up a sponsoring program or a mentoring program, the results of a short term, and with short, I mean maximum 6 months, is way better than the long-term ones. Let's see it too. Okay, chat. Hang on. Oh, Marguerite, thank you and bye. And Arthur, you're asking why, but what are you asking why about?
Oh, that was a long time ago.
I'm sorry, I just noticed the red dot on the chat. Do you want me to answer it now, or you want to wait until the end?
I already forget it was more in the start of your presentation.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
I remember. It was when you said that 30% has to be a minor population.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
and why do you need 30%?
Yeah, they did research on when, like, say, the population that was already there is moving towards inclusive behavior and is more open to more inclusiveness in general and being active in this. And then it showed that as soon as you reach that 30%, people will think it's normal to see a woman on the work floor, or it's normal to see somebody from a different culture. It's normal to see different kind of foods in the cafeteria. It's normal to, well, we're all working from home now, but it's normal to have flexibility in times to show up for work, or, you know, and that's actually a really nice example.
So I get it. If you have one Indian in a company of 1,000 people, you do not need to have rice in the
people don't
lunch.
feel the need, and then you know, so the more minority there's, and they found that the magical tipping point is around 30%. It doesn't need to be just women. It could be Indians and women, for instance. But yeah, so it needs to be around 30%, and then inclusion is more of a natural way to behave for a lot of people. Did I answer that to your Arthur?
And about the advantage of the 30%.
Yeah, so the 30% is needed for the people that aren't actually
diverse,
engaged, to get engaged or to behave in a more inclusive way.
And I can imagine that they have to become diverse.
Well, that means if you have a white male culture,
yeah,
and you invite other people in that aren't male or white or neither, then yeah, as soon as you reach the 30%, the men that aren't really open for inclusive behavior, they can't get around it anymore because there's too many of them. So you kind of have to, and that's 30%.
Okay, what behavior do you find by blocking the diversity?
I try not to focus on that because I live by the there's a special let's say module that if you focus on the I don't want to people, you get little results. It's better to focus on the people that are early adopters or positive for the change that you want to make, because it's they have a lot of following, say in the middle section, and so there's always going to be people that just don't want to change, because that's what you're asking. You're asking people to change their behavior, to change their normal way of doing things, and by nature people don't want to change because it's just built into our nature. But if you focus on the early adapters and positive-minded people for that part that you want to change, it's the easiest way to get things going and to really change things. But in order to change things, those actions, and that's, thank you for the bridge, those actions need to be short. And they also did a lot of research in schools and education institutions, but also in businesses. The best actions for this kind of change is when they're voluntarily. So when you don't have to, but you're asked, and then, you know, if one or two people say, yes, I want to do that, usually a couple of other people will join that. Voluntarily, it works better. It does require a management on board kind of way, and it also requires specific like KPIs, but the best actions, the most successful actions are the voluntary actions. Another thing is it needs to be visible. So even if it's only for a small group of people, it still needs to be displayed, published, communicated in as many ways as possible, even to the groups that it isn't even for. So if you're not allowed to, but if you would, like say there is an event for women within your company that you organize just for the women, it's also very good to communicate this to all the men in the company as well, because it gives a sign that you want things to change. And so if you only would communicate this to the women in the company, probably a couple of guys will hear about it anyway, but it's not visible enough. And another thing that is very important is that those actions are scary or risky. And of course, I'm not telling you to walk into an abyss or something or dive from an airplane. That's not what I'm screaming, I love women. That's not what I want you to do. But for instance, for a guy to say that he's all for equal treatment for gay guys, that is a risky statement for a lot of men, because other men might think that he's gay when in fact he's not. But it has to feel a bit risky in order to create change. It also means that if you feel that a couple of people or even a lot of people might be opposed to that action, that's what I mean about the scary or risky part. Then you know that you're on the edge of changing something, the way that people look at things or the way people perceive things. And as soon as the conversation gets going, it could even be a discussion, at least it will be addressed, and then people are more likely to take part in that change. Management on board is one of the things that a lot of people forget. And if you want to get the laggards, I love that word, laggards, it's the people that sort of don't really want to change, and they slack behind the majority of the people. If you want to get the laggards on board, if you want to get the majority on board, you need to have management on board of the actions that you're going to take. And of course, it needs...
Fred has a question.
Oh, okay. Go for it, Fred.
Yes, Wendy, thank you.
Oh, I see the hand, thanks.
Yes.
I'm so into my presentation, I always forget. Normally I have an assistant, but she couldn't make it this time, sorry.
Yes, I don't want to interrupt into
yes, please do. So, it's supposed to be interactive.
So
Go for it.
I wait my turn. What I find when you're talking about women in a company, I think it's a very good idea to have women, because they are different than men in action, because you can see it on a different way. But what I also encounter in companies is that you see a lot of feminist women who want to be equal as men. And I think this is very disturbing, because you must be focusing on your strength and differences than just to want to be a part of a man. And otherwise you get, and I think also it's very important when you go to a business and you involve the people there, it's about qualities. But now it's going on, I think there's in the work floor, that a lot of people think, yes, but because there is a top there, they're chosen because they are, it's the minority in what case of average. So that's also a thing you have to beware of, I think.
Well, I do recognize that, and I get that question a lot. And I also get a lot of, I hear a lot of discussion about this. Oh, she got that position because she's a woman. But quite frankly, if I am a CEO of a company, I'm not going to put somebody who can't do the job in a position where I already know that that person doesn't have the requirements that is needed for that job. So, and I know a lot of women object, even the women object to this. But a very famous woman, Nelly Smit-Kroes, as you might know, she said that she loved to be the excuustruus. That's a Dutch term for getting a job because you're a woman, because it gave her the opportunity to thrive within that position. And as soon as she got that position, it was a stepping stone to another position, and now nobody asked her why she got the position before. But she was only considered for that next position because she got that previous position where a lot of people discussed that she got it because she was a woman. The interesting thing about this, I always think is interesting, is that a lot of women say this as well, which I never get, because we should all applaud when a woman gets a job and never ever question why she got it. It's a thing between women. I never got that. I think we should be happy if management takes a risk to put somebody in there that not everybody is on board with. But then there's also a famous quote by Margaret Thatcher, by the way, and she said, "The world is filled with mediocre men." That men got positions because they know somebody that gave them that position, and not necessarily because they were the best person for that job. So there's always going to be discussion, and sometimes management has to take decisions like this, but the best way to contradict that decision is to make very, very clear why they chose that person for that job, and make sure that they communicate the special skills that this person has and why they chose her for that job. Trust me, if you're a good CEO, like I said, you're never ever going to put somebody in a position where they can do harm because they're just not up for the job. So
I understand that, but in regards to women, I've got a thought about this, because just because women are more emotional, when a man gets somebody passed by, they are angry at the time, but they leave it go. And what I mean by women, between women, and when somebody is going on top of them, there is a lot of envy, because women are more in the emotion than men are. I think that's one of the reasons.
Well, that's actually not true, because research has shown that there's more and jealous behavior related crimes committed by men than by women. So basically, we let go more. Right?
I know women, and also women in my friend list, And I
Oh,
know,
I hope so.
yes, a lot. No, I was my approach equally divided approximately. So,
But I know that we call it the queen bee syndrome or the crab basket syndrome. There's a queen bee syndrome of women that reach the top, and usually I'm talking about women over 50, over 55 at the moment, that have reached a top position within a company that is male oriented and male dominated, and they had to literally fight and be twice as good as men to get where they are.
Mm.
And they feel that the women under them are, you know, it's easier for them, and they don't like that. That's one of the things that's called the queen bee syndrome. And the other thing is that men don't do this, but crabs and women do. When you're a crab fisherman,
yes,
you know, like
I know the crab theory. Yes, I know the bucket theory.
Yeah.
I know it. Yes.
So crab fishermen don't put the lid on a basket because they don't have to, because when one crab crawls up to the edge of the basket, another crab will come and use that crab to get to the edge of the budget, and by pushing that other crab down again. So you see that happening a lot. I must say though, and I'm really pleased to tell you this, you see it less and less. Yeah, so I'm really happy. And the funny thing is, men don't do that as often as women. Men will promote the next guy to the next job as much as possible, because they know that if they help that guy get where he wants to go, they can cash on it later on. And they just think more strategically that way. But then again, they're also brought up more that way. And that's changing too. That's why I'm so glad we see this, and it sounds really weird maybe, but did you see on Netflix the series about the female chess player?
No.
Queen's Gambit? Oh, I recommend it to everybody because it's a lot of fun to watch. But also, it advocates chess to women. And the nice side effect of this is that a lot of people are playing more chess, which is a strategic game. But also a lot more women are playing chess now because of that stupid series. I don't know why it took that series, and it teaches women to think more strategically, which is not really pushed in elementary schools, but and certainly not at middle schools, which is, I think, a shame.
I think the way of thinking is also a habit within women, because when you look to the past, when you look about the Amazon, it was also a fierce woman warriors. So it's I think the qualities within men and women are equal, but also diverse, and that's
I love diversity in all kinds. That's why even a lot of companies asked us to work on not only gender diversity. My company is called Super Women Academy, but we created a second brand, which is called Super People Academy, because they're asking us to help with all kinds of diversity now. And I'm really proud of this. And you guys have the premiere, because I'm issuing a press release on Monday that together with the University of Amsterdam, we created the first European complete diversity and inclusion program of 18 lectures, and with lecturers from all kinds of companies and all kinds of countries. It's the first out there. And because a lot of people have a diversity and inclusion job, and but they don't know where to get the information and the best practices and a structure on how to build diversity and inclusion. And it's one of the most difficult things to build. I mean, building an inclusive culture within a company, that is ridiculously difficult. So you need all hands on board, and you need a lot more people that are connected to this and committed to this to get this done. Because as an HR professional, you know, you alone, or maybe your team of HR professionals, they're not going to be able to do this. It needs to be a joined, well, as many people as possible need to join in on this. So so I take my hat off to all the people that are you know, have this on their task list. I promised you a white paper, and it's going to be at superwomenacademy.com/inclusive white paper. And I'll put it in the chat and take myself off share so I could see you all in full glory again. Hang on. Here it is.
Yes, and of course I will send this also this CC to you, to all attendees by email, to all the people who have subscribed via Eventbrite. We have all email addresses. I really love to get back in contact to all of you who were here today for the first time to talk about human resources, about diversity, and about the EMN Amsterdam. And of course, I would absolutely recommend to do a one-on-one meeting with Wendy to discuss things further, because, by example, at one of the companies I was recently, there is one Polish guy between a lot of Dutch guys, all engineers, and yes, he gets the stupid work. Why? Because he's from Poland? That doesn't make a sense. So what you said, that is a good advice, that the leader has to tell why this person has got the job, and what are his good sides, and what is his education, and where he's good in, and why. That's really good advice.
It's a nice example, because for instance, a lot of I know Polish people, but also a lot of Asian people are not custom, and women are not as custom as well, to blow their own horn, as they say. So they're not used to speak about the accomplishments with colleagues that they did. So if they're really good at something, they will say, yeah, I'm okay with that. And a guy, and I'm of course making a huge generalization about this, the guy would say, oh, you know, yesterday I did this, and it was such a great result, and they will say a lot of things about this. So if a woman is promoted into a position, or say a Polish guy is promoted into a certain position, it could be because the person that promoted him knows about all these accomplishments, but his colleagues and the people around him don't know that because he or she didn't tell them about it. It's because it's in their culture, or it's because in their nature. And that also is the reason why a lot of promotions are misjudged, let me put it that way. And I also do trainings, and one of the trainings I do is about self-confidence, and I teach women how to brag. And it sounds really weird, but of course a bragging person is really annoying. I mean, come on. But a person that is self-confident is usually perceived as a very nice and positive person with a lot of energy. When women feel that they're bragging, they are not. They just feel that way, but they're basically saying what they're good at. They're not saying that they're the best. In this exercise, when women try to brag, what they usually do is state what they've done. They're not saying that they've done it excellently or the best of the whole team or stuff. They will just say, I did this correctly, or I did this, you know, I finished this and it was a good result. Not that that was the best result of all the teams or something. They won't do that by nature. So I teach them that they need to be verbal and visible about their successes, and they need to be visible, otherwise they won't be considered to do a cool project or for that new position or for that promotion. And I always, every time when I do this in mixed groups, the men look at the women like, this is not bragging, you know, and the women look in awe at the men like, oh my God, I would never, ever trust myself to say this. And they both learn. So it's always a pleasure to be in the mix of that. And that's why I'm looking forward. I can do this training again on the 28th for Diageo. Also for a mixed group about self-confidence, because there are men out there that could use a little extra self-confidence as well. But it's mostly a women thing. It's about 60% of the women that suffer under, and there's a name for it, imposter syndrome, which means that they're constantly undermining their own achievements. And there's only 30% of the men that suffer under this syndrome. So there's a big difference in there. That's why a lot of managers also say about women that they see a lack of confidence, and that's why they don't give them the promotion. And that's something that I would love to change on both sides, by the way, because it's also the way that you look at people. You can see that I'm passionate. I could talk about this for hours. So please unmute yourself. And if you want to have add something, an experience or a question, please do so. We're out of time, but I still do have about 15 minutes. So please do if you want to.
Well, I found it very, very interesting, and I recognized a lot of things because I was an equity partner among 90 male partners. I was the only female partner in an accountancy organization. And the organization was really male dominated. And well, I became the first female partner. And I had to work very, very hard for it. And well, I recognized a lot of things. I was alone, so the men weren't used to me or to women, and well, it was.
I mean, you're the only one. They don't have to, right? They're
they
like,
don't have to. And some
the odd one out.
people, some men didn't want to change, and other men they found it very exciting and good. That there was a woman.
Well, most women actually are open for this, right?
Yeah.
Especially, and most women are open for more men on the workforce, and there are some areas where there are more women than men, and the majority of the men are open to have more colored people, more people with a disability, more people of another gender on the workforce. That's the amazing part about this. And then you start to wonder why aren't they behaving inclusively? It's just because they never had to, so they're not used to it, and they don't know where to start, and they are not aware that some of their behavior is just not very inclusive. And I even had to, you know, I because of an illness, I ended up in a wheelchair, and I was amazed at how people treat you when you're in a wheelchair. They treat you like you don't have a brain anymore, and you can't decide anything on your own. They take the handles of the wheelchair, even if you don't want them to, and move you into places where you don't want to go. And so, and I was the same person. I just couldn't walk for a while. And so that changed my whole perspective. But you can't ask all the men to walk around and drag and, you know, experience how it is to be a woman for a day. So you kind of have to help them with that.
That's true.
And same the other way around. I mean, I don't know what it is to be a guy. I don't want to be a guy. I love being a woman. I don't want to be a masculine woman either. But I do need, like the example I gave about negotiation. I would have loved to have known that 20 years before, because it would have helped me so much in so many ways. Right?
Yeah.
So
you're talking about the whole position of a woman, but a man often has also to fulfill a certain picture that people have of men. It's also something they expect a man to be bold, to be there, and when a man shows his emotions, then it's often said, and also by women, that the men are too soft, and that's not true.
But it's changing, fortunately, because people are more open about this. But yeah, I do recognize this. It's one of the things, for instance, if a guy is cutting his meeting short to attend to his children, it's not very well accepted. Whereas when a woman does that, it's more normal, which I think they both make that child. So I think it's normal for both of them to do that.
There's a lot to be changed, because when you take as a man, for instance, the responsibility, you want to be attending to the children, you want to be a father of them. Mostly, it's in law is that the female, 90% the female gets the children. I think, listen, you're both parents, so unless something bad happened, I think you both need to be connected to the children.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know these actions that a lot of men take. A lot of men took when they were set out of their parental rights.
Yes.
They dressed up as Superman and Spider-Man, and that.
Yes, but also yeah, but the most awful is that the children were killed by them, or that the people, men you got into a battle with women, and you always lose. So I think that's so it's I think it's good to have the woman have the man equal.
I always say, let's keep discussing about this. Let's be open about how you feel and what you think of things, because if you are open about this, then you can maybe change your point of view, or at least be open to agree to disagree, for instance. But at least you'll know, and you can change your actions, and
Of course, communication is the essence. You need to be open for everything. So, but keep on listening.
Yeah, that would be nice. But more open is already something that I would be really happy about.
And also, because what I'm very intrigued by the beginning of your presentation, Wendy, in which you said you need to be more exclusive first before to become inclusive. And I was constantly wondering, because I don't recognize, also not in my former companies, and also not exactly in the way I'm thinking currently, but what I would like to do is about this man-woman thing. Because it has happened with me and with a lot of other colleagues, which I have worked with. And I don't know what you're talking about is the case. But I would like to deep dive, for example, into issues like we're currently in. We are talking together with each other via Zoom right now. We can't see each other, we can't feel each other, we can't hug each other, we can't go to the workplace anymore. But I'm sure that will be the case again somewhere in 2021. At least that's what I hope. That we go to the workplace again.
I hope so.
But there need to be discussions, for example, with everybody working in companies. How will we take along the good stuff of the Corona time? Because they happen to be good stuff as well.
Yeah. It's not been so good for women, but in general, but because the first research is in about that. But there are things that are beneficial, have been beneficial for women. For instance, the flexibility and the working from home. So
but
my husband,
sorry to interrupt, but how to discuss this in workplaces together and to make it possible that every opinion is heard. The male and the female, the introvert and the extrovert, and who is going to decide, and how to discuss that upfront. How you're going to do that as a leader, as a team leader, or as an organization. That for me is inclusive working in an inclusive workplace as well.
Yeah.
Not starting with the male and the female, but starting with how would we like to work together? How would we like to do stuff? Which perhaps
it's not possible to make the workplace 100% for everybody, because there's some things are going to be contradictory to each other.
Sure.
Like an extrovert and introvert people are, they would like to see different things. But actually, I talked to an introvert person this week in a networking event that started off with the New Year's resolutions. And so the person that organized it shared her resolutions and then invited everybody in mini groups to talk about these New Year's resolutions. And then afterwards, the introvert person came up to her and said, well, this is the first time that I felt as an introvert, I felt very comfortable in networking, because I didn't have to walk towards a group and then break into, because everybody was not in a group and everybody was thrown together by, at random. So, and it was introduced, so she didn't have to come up with something or break into a conversation. So that made the organization think that there must be more introverts out there, or people that have difficulties approaching people within a network. So they actually took that compliment and made the decision right there and then to do it more often in that way, to accommodate people that have difficulty to speak up and approach people on their own. But I was referring to the being more exclusive first, because research done by companies that are very inclusive, and like Unilever, and because they've reached a certain kind of inclusivity that a lot of companies are thriving for, AT&T, for instance, as well. They all said that the minute they first excluded certain groups and grouped them, not being an individual, but group them into exclusivity, and made sure that while there was still a minority, that they would develop themselves just as easy as the people that were already there. That helped the company to become more inclusive. And that's why I made that bold statement that we need to be exclusive first before we can be inclusive.
Yeah, and I do see your point.
Which is an interesting point of view. I was surprised by that as well.
Yeah. Because you drag attention to it, that you really find it important. That would be the logic behind it.
And of course, I'm not saying that if you, because that's a mistake that I see a lot, that a lot of women's networks and LGBTQ networks make, is that they have their events all the time, every time, just for them.
Yeah.
And that's a mistake that you see happen a lot. And that's not something you want to do. You want to create a safe environment where these people can talk about what's going on and what is maybe something that they need to be active and change within the company. You need to have a safe environment to do so. So that would be an exclusive kind of meeting. But if you want to reach inclusion, you kind of have to, at least a couple of times per year, include people that are actually, you know, all for women on the workforce, or all for women, for people to be open about their sexual orientation or stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to let them in, otherwise they're gonna feel excluded, and then you get the behavior that they don't want to be inclusive anymore because they feel excluded, which is kind of a weird way to think, because it's human nature. But people don't want to be excluded, not ever. And so then you get the men that saying, the women, those women get all the benefits because they're in this group and they get extra training, and then they don't understand why. So you need to
May I
be
say something?
exclusive, but not to the max. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, that's why there also, I saw a few weeks ago a quote from somebody who said, who made a statement: the 45-year white male up for promotion person doesn't get any promotion anymore, because it's now, the promotion goes to the female part of our society. So who is excluded? That was
but I do understand what they're saying this, but I sort of also, and maybe that's really mean for me to say, but now they experience how it was before they took those measurements. The shoe is on the other foot, I sort of say.
Yeah, true.
But you want to steer away from situations like that. So I applauded the technical university for coming out in the open and making a bold statement, because nothing was changing. I'm hoping that they did everything and anything before they took such extreme measurements, because you're gonna hurt a lot of people in the process of law, and you get a lot of discussion and a lot of controversy, and not always comes good out of that. It could hurt the organization a lot as well. But you know, we only know, and you know, after a couple of years, if it was an effective and also a constructive measurement that they took. You don't know that unless you try. But we'll see. It's the same with the COVID measurements, right? We'll only know in like 5 years if we did it right or wrong, or what it could have done better. But now we're in it, nobody knows. So,
Wendy, I have to go. Thank you for your.
I love how you interacted, Fred. So thank you so much for participating in the way that you did.
I'm very glad with the tips what you gave, how a woman get to men who get the sales done. I know what the weak spots from that is.
Yeah, and do look me up on LinkedIn. I'm under my name.
I already sent you an invitation. I think we met before in the past, because I have been in the past with the IMIN, but because I think we've got a lot of mutual connections here. But that's,
and if you want, we can always do a one-on-one, and because I'd love to discuss with you a little more. And logistics is one of those branches where there's not a lot of women in there. So
that's changing. The company I worked for, they have the ocean department. I was let go. They had 2 women there, so that's and it was a small part of it. So, and what you see is that mostly in logistics, the women there are part-time working there, and if the men are working
that's
there,
a Dutch thing.
Yes, and the men are always full-time working there, and if they apply for a part-time job, they don't get it. So that's
yeah.
But thank you all.
We should have been communists before. Then we wouldn't have the part-time working thing. No. It's just in the Eastern Europe countries where there used to be communism, it's common that women and men are working like full time or as many hours as possible.
Yes,
that's why you see less part-time workers in Eastern European countries, which is kind of
but I
funny.
think it's also a part of the culture, because the women, when you call
Actually, we have a guy to thank for that. There was a prime minister after the war who said that women should work part-time because that would be better on workforce. But that's a whole different discussion. Let's not do that. You had to go.
Yeah, okay. But thank you for your insights. And
well, thanks.
speak to that again sometime.
I'm looking forward to see you at another OneonOne meeting.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I would like to say thank you as well, Wendy. Very interesting, and definitely will connect with you on LinkedIn.
Cool.
And Claudia, thanks for the invitation. I'm very glad that I was able. It was a little bit last minute, but that I was able to join.
Wonderful.
And congratulations on your birthday and the step to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's very. I decided
something
that
to cheer about.
last year. So, but indeed, the let's say, to make it visible. One of your statements as well during the presentations, make it visible. That was indeed last. Was nice. The beginning of the year, the birthday, and then the start of the company. So
Cool.
I would definitely.
If I can help you, let me know.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for your time and for all the input. And
wow.
Till
we
next
stay in
time.
contact.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye, Frida. I also have to go. So thank you so much.
Bye, Wendy, and bye, Claudia. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for your attendance. Bye.